Welcome back to Rewind of the Living Dead. I'm Damon Martin.
And I'm Patrick 2.0. Hello, Damon.
I almost wanted to make a Max Headroom joke there, but I was like, our audience is probably like, how fucking old are you, Damon, that you're going to make a Max Headroom joke there?
Yeah, they would have been confused and be like, yeah, you guys have gigantic heads, max head all over the screen. Yes, the YouTube audience knows.
Do you remember Max Headroom?
Hell yeah, Damon,
Okay.
come on. I don't want
I'm
to
just
admit
making
how old I am, but yes, of course I remember Max Headroom.
Okay. Yes. Well, I'm not going to. I already made the Max Headroom joke, obviously. So tonight, yes, Patrick, we have returned to talk about that bad bitch, M3GAN 2.0.
Damon, the bitch is back. M3GAN 2.0 released in June of 2025, starring the likes of Jan Van Epps as Tess, Aristotle Athari as Christian, Ivana Sankno as Amelia, and as you mentioned, returning as M3GAN, Jenna Davis as the voice and Amy Donald as the physical form, with Violet McGraw reprising her role as Katie. Jermaine Clement is back in as, I forget his name, but anyway. Allison Williams also stars as Gemma. As you mentioned, Damon, this time written and directed by Gerard Johnstone. It's back, Damon. AI back in our faces yet again. M3GAN 2.0.
Now, I have to go back in time because when we reviewed the original M3GAN, which was 2 years ago, 2023, I remember, very
I think
beginning.
so.
Very beginning. It came out in January. I remember we talked about that when it came out because we said January is generally where films go to die. It's like
Yeah.
studios like, well, we don't have a whole lot of faith in this, so we're going to dump it in January and just hope for the best. But then M3GAN ended up being a bit of a pleasant surprise. We both actually enjoyed it for the most part. It was a fun movie. It had some really good horror moments. And as I mentioned in the intro, and if you don't hear the intro, that's fine. But it was on a $12 million budget. It made $181 million. Okay, that's a lot of money for a $12 million budget. So, of course, they were going to make a sequel, Patrick. That's a no brainer.
Oh, Damon, they had to make a sequel. I'm so glad that you brought up our previous episode because I kind of forgotten how I felt about M3GAN. I couldn't remember. And it turned out that we really liked it. But not only that, I think we had reviewed it like the night it came out. So there was no buzz at the time. There was no like she wasn't M3GAN yet. And I said in that podcast, I said, I think we might have another like horror icon on our hands. We'll have to wait and see. Holy shit, Damon. M3GAN became the toast of the town. M3GAN is now just somebody who lives rent free in like meme culture. She is a gay icon. Like M3GAN had so much staying power. I had no way to predict how big she was going to become. And it was no surprise to me that M3GAN 2.0 was just bigger and badder in all respects. Now, Damon, not unlike last week we said with 28 years later, if you're expecting the same thing over again, you'd be dead wrong. I'm saying that again right now without spoiling anything, without giving anything away. M3GAN 2.0 is nothing like the original M3GAN, and I mean nothing.
Yeah, it's a totally different movie. Now, I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a
Right.
much different, totally different movie. In a weird way, like when I say this, this is a bad comparison, but the best way I can explain it in terms of like a successful movie that gets a bigger budget, and I mentioned in the intro one of my all-time favorite films, The Terminator. Now, The Terminator in 1984, James Cameron's Terminator, is an all-time classic. It is an absolute sci-fi classic, and it's my favorite Terminator film. I know most people prefer T2. But that was a pretty advanced movie for its time in 1984, for everything they did with models and practical effects, and that was James Cameron at his best, which is how we ended up with Aliens in 1986, which is also an absolute masterpiece for what is, again, pretty much all practical effects, or is all practical effects, not pretty much. It is all practical effects. Terminator 2, when it came out in the 90s, was just the upgrade of that, and it was a much bigger film, much more budgeted film, a lot more technology at that point. That's how you make the liquid metal and you make the T1000 and so on and so forth. So when I say M3GAN 2.0 is like that, I mean just in terms of And by the way, I don't think they got like a massive increased budget. They got a bigger budget, but I don't think it was like insanely big. Like I don't think it went from like 12 million to like 30 or like 50 million. I think they went from what 12 million to like 20 million, something like that.
It's 25 as according to IMDb Pro. So
25.
they
That's
doubled their budget, but that's still pretty low.
Yeah, that's still pretty low. But what I mean in terms of like the advancement is like it is a bigger movie. It is a much bigger movie. Like ultimately, Megan was I won't say self-contained, but it was a smaller movie. It had your AI robot, and then there were locations and things like that, but it was ultimately still there was one AI robot and a lot of human characters. This one, just by the trailer alone, there's more than one AI robot. And this is just a broader, bigger scaled movie. So that's step one of why this movie is different than Megan, the original Megan. Megan 2.0 goes in a lot of different directions that are totally different. Some in fun, enjoyable ways, some in kind of like, why did they do this ways? Um, I have a lot of feelings about this one for what is a totally different movie from Megan 1.0. I guess we're gonna have to call it Megan 1.0.
I also have like a lot of feelings. This movie's complicated in my opinion. This movie contains multitudes, Damon, as we've mentioned before on this show. Yeah, I think sticking with the theme though, there is a common thread I would say between these two movies, and that is the theme of like AI gone rogue. I think, and it's like blaringly obvious from the trailer. Like that's an issue. There's like a super soldier that's gone rogue, and they may have to employ Megan to help them out. How's that going to work out? The twists and turns of the movie will keep you guessing. I do give you that. But I also think like this movie may in its own weird way suffer from its own success, which is like Megan became something so much bigger than just this little indie horror movie that got dumped in January and Blumhouse crossed their fingers hoping that people would like it. No, now it's a franchise and there is no getting around it. Are we going to see crossovers? There's already rumors that
We
there's
already
going
know.
to
I
be
mean,
a
there's
Saw
a new,
Megan crossover.
we know there's going to be that new movie Soulmate coming out next year, which is they said it's the Fatal Attraction R-rated erotic thriller version of Megan that's coming out next year from Blumhouse, and it's got Lily Sullivan from Evil
Oh
Dead
yeah.
Rise is playing the evil robot or the sex robot, and they're
Mhm.
saying like it takes us back to the great erotic thrillers of the 80s. So this is like the R-rated. So that is already in the works coming out. Allison Williams is producing it. Yeah, it's already like they've already been filming it. So that's coming out next year.
Yeah, and I mean, I've heard strong rumors that they want to do a Megan Saw crossover, which I don't know what that's going to look like now that Blumhouse has Saw, but James Wan and Lee Winnell are back, so I don't know that they're signing up for that right away. There's also talk of like, how do we get Chucky and Megan in the same room together? People want this. You know what I mean? I guess my point is, Damon, is that she has become a true personality. I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised if she presented at the Oscars. You know, like really, that's kind of where we're at. So if I'm here to say Megan 2.0 might kind of overcorrect for that in some instances, I think it might be. I think it might be leaning really hard into the fact that she's very popular. I I understand that, and it makes total sense from a marketing standpoint. You go just give people more of the Megan that they want, more of the Megan that they have been just feeding to the internet for the last couple of years. Like literally AI training the studio as to what people want to see out of Megan 2.0. What do you think, Damon? Aside from the tonal departure, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in spoilers, is Megan like almost too big for horror now? Does she need to transcend into something else?
So it's weird you say that because I went to a 10:45 p.m. showing of Megan. It was the last show of the night. I had to work late, so I didn't get to the show till the very last show. And I'm like 10:45. When I bought my ticket, I was the one seat. Now, granted, I bought it a few weeks ago. Now I show up, there are people there, which I enjoy. I like other people being in the theater. It was bizarre because it was me and like a couple of other couples in there, and then there was a lady and her kid next to me, and the kid had to be no older than 7 or 8. And it's like the 11 o'clock show, the last show of the night. And on the other side, there was like 2 rows of parents, and like I assume it was like a sleepover almost, because there was like 9 or 10 tween girls, like maybe 12 to 13-year-old girls. And they were all in pajamas and stuff. So it was like literally they were doing a sleepover. This is the last show of the night. And I was like, I guess school's out because it is June. I didn't really think about that at the time, but I'm now thinking about it. Okay, school's out. But I was like, this is wild. Like, this is the first one was a real horror film. And even though it was PG-13, and we said, I think one of our, I almost said complaints, one of our suggestions, one of our rewrite of the Living Dead's was this movie could have been so much more hardcore if they just tweaked it a couple notches and gave us the R-rated version. And they did put out an uncut, unrated version eventually, but I know this was PG-13 again, so I knew right away what they were leaning into. They were leaning into that TikTok audience that saw that dance move from the first film that blew, absolutely went insane with the Lady Gaga backing track. I knew that's what they were leaning into with this one. And so when I got to the theater and 90% of the rest of the crowd are basically tweens or children under 10, I was like, well, it worked because this is the audience. Now, there's a lot, as we said, a lot of tonal differences between this film and the other film. That's without any spoilers, and you could just look at the trailer and tell that. Here's one of my, I guess, complaints, but it may not be. It's a complaint for me, but I don't know if it's going to be a complaint for the bigger audience, if I'm being honest.
Go ahead.
That dancing Megan, the one that got viral and everyone's on TikTok and blowing up and putting it with some Lady Gaga clips, they're like, ooh, people like that Megan. The fun, kind of goofy Megan. Not goofy, I don't know, the fun, comical Megan to a certain extent. This movie leans really hard into that. Really, really, really hard into that. And I'm trying to think of other movies that were like this, where it's like they take a character like, ooh, they really like that character, so we need to crank that up to 11 in the next one.
I have the movie, Damon.
Go ahead.
So, and bear with me. But I think our crowd, the crowd that listens to us, will understand this reference a little bit more. Take Friday the 13th, the final chapter. We're going to skip over part 5 because we know it was a weird diversion. Let's jump right to Jason Lives, part 6. Part 6 is beloved by many people, not by me particularly, but it's beloved by many people because it sort of takes a piss out of the entire franchise. It makes a joke out of Jason. And like, it's the first time, by the way, that he's like living dead and all that stuff. And it's actually kind of a jokey, goofy movie. That was like that, and it was a successful movie, by the way. It was one of the more successful movies in the franchise. That's what like M3GAN 2.0 is. It's like, oh, you loved that? What if we just went like to 11 with it? What if we just did something so like, why don't we just lean into all the things that you love about Jason and make them goofier and funnier and wackier, because the internet has been feeding that this entire time. And interestingly enough, thematically, that makes sense because we're talking about AI. Again, that's no secret. This is an AI movie. You need to feed the AI whatever it is that it's going to learn and put out. That's just how AI works. I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of AI, but it needs to feed off of what of what the public has already made. What the public has made is this like yassified, like sassy icon that is M3GAN 2.0. I mean, literally the only trailer I saw was just like, the bitch is back. Like, she is that bitch. It's, they didn't come up with that title. The internet came up with that title and then they regurgitated it. So thematically, it's actually super relevant to say like M3GAN is now, she doesn't belong to what we came up with anymore. The AI has spit out this new version of her. And it's interesting too that Akilah Cooper is not back as the writer, and I don't know why. And for all I know, I know that her and Gerard developed the story for this anyway. But like Akilah's movie, and we did talk about this on that podcast, was a satire. It was 100% a satire on tech and their inability to use humanity to make choices that make the world a better place. Like that was kind of the satirical nature of it. It was funny and fun loving. That doesn't change here. It's still funny and fun loving. But what changes here is to me tonally, I think we're dealing with parody instead of satire. All of the sudden it starts to feel like a Saturday Night Live skit and not a smart satire. Does that make sense, Damon?
No, it does. And I think going back to your comparison, as you were saying that, I literally thought about one of our biggest complaints about the Nightmare on Elm Street series when we got to part three and part four, which are your and I's favorite versions of the Nightmare series. They lean by part five and Freddy's dead. They're just like, oh, everyone likes the quippy, funny Freddy. And they stop making him menacing whatsoever. Part three and part four, he's kind of funny, welcome to primetime, bitch, but he's also still kind of scary. And then by part five, they're like, oh, let's just drop the scary. Let's just go full on the jokey, jovial Freddy Krueger, which was bizarre. And we hated those movies. And I would say, in similar fashion, like, and I mean, there's other movies like that, but they just lean really hard into like what they think you want. And going back to my Terminator analogy, when Terminator came out in 1984, Arnold Schwarzenegger was still very much like an unknown. I mean, he had, that was Conan era. That's when he was getting big. That's when he was becoming a household name. By the time they did Terminator 2 in the early 90s, 90 or 91, whenever they made that movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger was one of the biggest stars on the planet. And
Yeah.
so if you watch Terminator 2, they're like, well, hold on now. We're going to make a sequel. We can't just put Arnold back to being the Terminator bad guy. He's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's beloved now. He's twins. He's
Yeah.
the
Kindergarten Cop, all that stuff.
kindergarten
Yeah.
cop. Like he's a fun loving, lovable guy. We can't do that to him again. In every role pretty much after Terminator, he was the hero. So we
Hmm.
can't do that to him again. So what happened? Boom. The Terminator becomes the savior, the hero, and then they have to get in Robert Patrick to come in to play the T-1000. I watched the trailer. You can already tell what they're doing, Megan, here. Like they're not this. I'm not. This is not a spoiler. One trailer will tell you like they can't continuously turn Megan into the bad person because everyone loves Megan. And if everyone's
Right.
rooting for Megan, then you can't just have, I mean, you can try to turn her back into a bad person and you're going to have her slashing and killing people, but the freaking audience is going to be rooting for her to slash and kill people at that point. It's like, we love Megan. How do you do that? How do you turn against that? Then you do exactly. I know I'm making these Terminator comparisons, but it's true. Like, well,
No,
we can't
it's
make
right.
Megan bad, so we got to get an evil, more evil AI robot for Megan to battle. I mean, the formula's right there. James Cameron made it a couple decades ago, and Megan 2.0 just follows that blueprint.
It really does. Now, wisely, in the first Megan, she is sort of like not full. She's not fully vilified. She does some terrible things, but it's ultimately because her marching orders were simple: protect. God, what? Now, here I go,
Katie,
forgetting
Katie,
names.
protect Katie.
For protect Katie at all costs. And so at all costs means she was doing bad things to protect Katie. But ultimately, like that, there's something heroic about it. Like she does love Katie. That's not fake. That is real. Like her love for Katie is 100% real, and her annoyance with Gemma is hilarious. Those things are carried over to this movie. Those things don't change at all. What changes is just like now we need a villain, right? Which is your T2, a perfect example. It's like the things that you loved about Megan 1.0, they're still here. She still loves Katie. She still will do whatever she will do for Katie. She's still sassy towards Gemma, and they crank that up to 11. But now there is a bad guy, and they need Megan's help to face that bad guy, and that's all in the trailer. There's nothing about that's a spoiler, Damon. But maybe it is time to get into the spoilers because there is a jarring left turn in this movie that will make all the 28 days or all the 28 years later haters they should be spinning in their iPhones because the departure is severe. But I don't know when you want to get into that.
We'll get into it one second. I do want to mention one more thing about the story here because one thing I did like about both M3GAN and now M3GAN 2.0, at the heart of both stories, there is a real message that you can obtain from this. Now, I'm not, I am a technology geek. Like, I'll fully admit it. Like, I'm wearing Meta glasses right now, and on the back of my tattoo, if you can see it right here, is the Terminator arm. That is the Terminator. I am I am a tech geek. And the inside of my arm, for anyone curious, is actually the X-ray of a MacBook Pro. So I am a full-on tech geek. I love technology. That being said, I work in a sector, I'm a journalist, I'm a writer, and I work in a sector that is very threatened by AI. We just went through a whole union contract, a big deal about that because AI is such a prevalent part of our jobs now. Um, I am pro technology, but I'm also pro knowing what kind of technology we're using and understanding how technology can both benefit us and also it's like a blessing and a curse. M3GAN, the original M3GAN did give you a strong, I mean, and that movie was pretty like, hammer on the head telling you like this is what happens when AI goes wrong. It was just the ratcheted up version of like, the machines will turn against us, the Terminator message all over again. Which, by the way, that's not revolutionary. A million movies have done that. We just never seem to learn. M3GAN 2.0 takes that to the next level because even in the last 2 years since that movie came out, AI has exploded even further into our world. And now, like, you go to Google and there's just immediately an AI assistant. You go on your iPhone, there's immediately an AI assistant. Everywhere you turn, AI is involved now in some form or fashion. And so, once again, I feel like M3GAN 2.0 does a pretty good job of not only being a fun, enjoyable movie, which clearly, as my audience was, just full of tweens who are like, I want to see that bad bitch again. There is an underlying message about the healthy respect and fear we need to have for technology, especially with artificial intelligence. And in a weird way, I actually think M3GAN and M3GAN 2.0 does it better because this is a more accessible film, because this is a film that appeals to children as much as it appeals to adults. Because Terminator and Terminator 2, I would hope, teenagers are probably the youngest people going to see that. I would hope. Like, there's some pretty adult shit in those movies. This is, I would hope that, like, the next generation of, I assume what we're in my audience, 10 or 12-year-old kids are watching this saying, oh, maybe I should be more cautious before I just speak into existence of everything I want AI to do for me. I mean, we got kids who are cheating on tests now by having ChatGPT write their papers and crazy shit like that.
Yeah.
This movie, once again, and applaud to Gerard Johnstone with the story by Akilah Cooper. They do a good job of, and what I appreciate about this movie, much like M3GAN, is they're not telling you that all technology is evil. They're not saying like you're fighting the inevitable. If you're like, we need to go back to we need to go back to landlines and no internet. That's never going to happen. But you would have to learn to embrace what we have and understand the future. And I think both the first one and the second one do a really good job of like informing to say, hey, technology is not bad. It can actually be pretty damn useful. We also got to be careful about how we use it because where it can go. And that message is very, very strong in this movie. And I did enjoy that.
It's true. Both of these movies have that. Really, for the M3GAN 1.0 was really more about like screen time and detaching from people and all that stuff. And that kind of like there's more family dynamic that was involved in that. Because again, at the time, it was really just about like our cell phones taking away our ability to connect with people. This was definitely much more of like, are you letting AI take over your life instead of having your own thoughts and your own ability to make decisions and all that stuff? And then who should even be in control of AI because it's not going anywhere. It's a much more nuanced conversation, and I can respect that about these movies, even if the delivery system is not my favorite, Damon, which I think we'll get to very shortly here.
Yeah, like it's okay. Like, I'm not telling you not to use AI, but if you like what I like to do, and I'm not trying to preach here. I guess I am preaching, but use AI to add to your knowledge. And what I mean by that is when I want an answer to something, I'll be like, who did this? And I'll look it up and then I research about the thing I'm looking up. Don't just go to ChatGPT and said, Who invented the light bulb? But when it tells you Thomas Edison and then you just stop right there, that's not learning. That's
Yeah.
just
Oh,
giving you the
Damon,
answer.
real quick, I did use because my Siri on my iPhone, connects to Chat GPT if it can't answer your question. I was looking for a movie review. Chat GPT provided it, but there was no link, and I was like, "That's weird." And so I kept digging. Chat GPT made up the movie review. It was asking a very specific question. I wanted to know if Pauline Kael had said something specific about the thing. It gave me a quote and everything. It had hallucinated the whole thing. It had not, like, I looked everywhere. That Pauline Kael quote does not exist anywhere on the internet. It did not happen. Chat GPT created it. But I could have walked around going, you know what Pauline Kael said about the thing? She never did. It, like, you cannot just rely on it. And I know a lot of people do. It's a tool. Use it wisely. I think that's the message of M3GAN 2.0, Damon. We got to figure that part out.
Yeah, and Pauline Kael, for those who don't know, was a very, very famous film reviewer that kind of came up in the 70s and 80s who Quentin Tarantino absolutely adores. He actually wrote a movie based loosely upon Pauline Kael, which was The Movie Critic, which was going to be his 10th and final film. That's no longer happening now, but originally it was based loosely on Pauline Kael. He praised Pauline Kael's reviews. So go look up. She was a very, very prolific reviewer in the 70s and 80s. Primarily, I think is what she came up in, like the L.A. Times. Am I remembering that correctly?
I don't remember exactly. And then they would have called her a film critic. So yeah,
Yeah,
now we're all film reviewers, but back then it was a job and it was called film criticism, and
yeah,
she was amongst the best.
yeah, right there with like Roger Ebert and all those.
Yeah, her and Ebert, and yeah, those are my top two that I look for opinions on.
With that being said, Patrick, we are now going to get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen M3GAN 2.0, I think you can tell by our generalization that I didn't like. I feel like I've seen, because after I watched the movie, I saw some of the reviews, and I went and watched some of our TikTok friends, horror influencers, talk about this. And generally speaking, I've seen a little bit more negativity. Like I liked M3GAN, but I didn't like M3GAN 2.0. I wouldn't go that far. I would say I did like M3GAN better than M3GAN 2.0, but there's definitely qualities about this movie I do enjoy. And I know I know I'm speaking in vague terms because I don't want to get into spoilers, but just for people who kind of stop here and maybe come back after seeing the movie, I didn't hate this movie. It's not my favorite movie of the year, but I think I've heard a lot of negativity saying, oh, I love M3GAN and this is nothing like M3GAN. It is a totally different movie than M3GAN, but that doesn't make it a bad movie. I would say there's a lot of elements of this movie I do enjoy.
I think most people are going to like this movie, and some are not, and some may be in this room, Damon.
With that being said, Patrick, let's get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen M3GAN 2.0, it is in theaters right now. And also, just as a reminder, July 11th, Patrick and I are going live. No AI, just Patrick and I
No.
the whole time. We are going to be launching our Patreon. We're going to be signing people up, and Patrick and I are going to go online live for several hours. We are going to do some really cool reviews. We're going to do a commentary track, which would be a lot of fun. We have not done one of those together before. I think that's going to be a blast. We're going to do a Q&A. We're going to have live guests in. Friends of ours are going to come in and join us. So July 11th, get ready. If you want to join us for the whole time, you are a dedicated fan and we love you. But if you just want to jump in at time to time, we're going to be there for several hours. We're going to get you all to sign up for our Patreon, which, as I mentioned before, just to put it out there, this podcast, the one you're listening to right now, remains free. We're not going to charge you for that. The Patreon is for other stuff. So we're going to have different reviews, different elements that you're going to pay for as a fan of ours to get those extras. This podcast, you're never going to pay a dime for. So just to be clear about that. With that being said, Patrick, let's get into spoilers for M3GAN 2.0. So you want me to just say it right up at the top here, like what we didn't want to fully say in the beginning, which is M3GAN 2.0, for all its good parts and faults, this is not a horror movie. Not at all a horror movie.
The surprise twist, folks. Literally, M3GAN 2.0 is not a horror movie at all. I was sitting there going, oh shit, we're a horror movie podcast, and this is not a horror movie. M3GAN 2.0, Damon, and help me out here if I'm missing a category. M3GAN 2.0 is an action sci-fi. It is a family drama. It is a screwball comedy, and I mean on the order of like Naked Gun screwball comedy. And like I, I don't know, like a Hong Kong police procedural. Like it's anything but a horror movie. And I mean any like at one point, Damon, I just jettisoned best kill, best scare. I was like, this is not applying to this movie. We are literally not in a horror movie.
Yeah, I mean it's when I when I jumped around saying it in the non-spoiler section when I was talking about like they leaned really hard into the dancing Megan. Yeah, they were like, "Hold on now, you like the quippy, jovial, fun Megan? Well, let's just take that and give her just a giant dose of steroids, and we're gonna crank that up, and this is what you're getting from Megan 2.0." So it is goofy at times, it is action packed at times, it is very sci-fi at times, it is full of comedy. Some things hit, some things don't. But the one thing it's not as scary. The one thing it's not as horror. There is the. I mean, if you really want to drill it down, you really want to like, oh, I gotta get to the nuts and bolts of this thing. You can once again say the advancement of AI is scary, but that's not necessarily a horror movie. So that's about as scary as this one gets.
Yeah, and you know, for those who are like, well, what the fuck is the plot? You guys haven't even mentioned it yet. I mean, it's in the trailer, and that's really what it is that there is an AI robot that the government has been using for subterfuge and espionage and all that good stuff, and it's gone rogue. That's in the trailer. I didn't spoil anything for you. That's the movie, and then we discover. I mean, it's all over the trailer, by the way, too. This is one of those trailers that gives everything away, where Gemma manages to find Megan, who has been hiding in the internet, and puts her in a safe little robot to figure out how to do this. And they basically rebuild Megan to help stop this robot because this robot is coming for everyone. This robot hates people.
Well, the
It
robot,
is
the original idea of the robot is trying to wipe out anyone because the robot was built with the same technology to use to make Megan. And so to protect itself, the robot is destroying any ties to anybody who had Megan. That's what the original idea is. So like Jim is under
yeah.
threat and Katie's under threat because they helped to build and create Megan. So they're at first they're under the assumption that this robot named Amelia is coming for them because it needs to wipe out any hope that anyone could find a way to counteract what it's doing by destroying its creator. So that's the original link. Now it goes much further than that once the movie gets
Yes.
going, but that's the original idea.
It's the original idea, and Damon, there's a lot of ideas in this movie. there is there is an abundance of ideas. It now it's and this is totally on me, but I didn't do my research ahead of time. I didn't realize Akila Cooper didn't write this movie because I sat there and I kept going. I don't like Akila Cooper doesn't strike me as this kind of writer where again I felt like I was dealing with parody. I mean, there's times where it's the guy, I think the guy's name is Appleton, the guy Jermaine Clement, who plays kind of an Elon Musk type, like you know, billionaire tech bro. There, I mean, there's full blown like corny comedy scenes in this movie that are not they're not satirical. They're parody. They're parody of things. They're making it's a Saturday Night Live sketch. Like that level of goofy, that level of silly. And I was like, God, that doesn't feel like a Keela Cooper. She's good at satire, but it's slick and it's interesting and it's nuanced. And this was like big clown hammer over your head, goofy. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. So I didn't realize that that Gerard Johnstone had written this himself because the shift is so tonally different where now I'm just like waiting for the laugh a minute. I've been showing my boys the Naked Gun movies in preparation for the new one. They love them. They're like, this is the most ridiculous shit we've ever seen. Like, this doesn't even make sense why these things are happening. You get shades of that in M3GAN 2.0. And what bummed me out about that was that I felt like Akila Cooper's script for M3GAN 1.0 had a lot to say. Like it had a lot to say, and it did it very efficiently, and it did it with a really good balance of like humor and horror and just kind of the cleverness, and I think Akila's love of like 90s like aesthetic and sitcoms and stuff. Like she's very good at all that stuff, and that was missing here. What was here was a slapstick, screwball, goofy comedy that it's the comedy of this movie to me pulled away from the message, and at the same time, weirdly, this movie talked itself to death. There's a lot of talking in this movie. It's basically action sequence, and then now we'll stop and tell you all the things that are happening in. And when I say tell you, I mean like literally like they just explain what's happening somewhere in the background somewhere. And I was like, man, like I'm not vibing with how this movie is set up. It's got incredible action sequences, high production value, some good laughs. I laughed a couple times, but not a ton. And then just mountains of dialogue. I kept thinking to myself, what do the pages of the script look like? It must just be rows and rows and columns of dialogue. There's so much talking in this movie.
It's funny you say that. So real quick, I want to mention the Naked Gun thing. So I love the original Naked Gun, the Leslie Nielsen 1988, 89, whatever movie, the original one, the very original one that came out with Ricardo Montalban. That is one of my all-time favorite comedies. I crack up at that every
It's
time.
funny.
The second one that came out was like it was kind of funny, but it also got like a little dumber. Like it just wasn't.
Yes.
And then the third one was just off the rails. Like I think I've seen the third one like maybe twice. I really don't like that movie at all. Like when they got to 33 in the third, it just wasn't good anymore. Um, and I feel like the comedy, like they're like, okay, we got it. Everything you laughed at in Naked Gun, we got to crank it up to 11 and make it even dumber and stupider and more ridiculous. And part two kind of worked, and part three didn't work at all. And that's kind of how I felt about M3GAN, weirdly enough, because they took the comedy for the little bit of comedy that was in the first one, the moments of comedy, like the dance and so on and so forth. And then they just cranked it up and they're like, oh, this has got to be funny. And this has got to be funny. We got to stick a joke in here. And this has got to be, the character's got to be goofy. The Elon Musk bro has got to be super broy and super over the top and so dumb and so kind of fun and blah, blah, blah. The FBI agent has to have a dorky mustache and he's got to be
Right.
kind of like he's got to be serious, but also like you can't take him serious. Like every character that is new is like that. Like you can tell. And then the characters who were from the first one, like Gemma and like Katie, they feel a little more grounded because it's almost like, well, we can't take them too far away from who they were, or the audience won't accept that. So they're the most genuinely the same from the first movie. Is everybody else, all the new characters is just everything's like, let's just Frank Drebin it up here, man. Let's go for it. Now the exposition parts, I'm not defending it. You're right. There's so much exposition. My curiosity is, and you may disagree with me. I agree with you in terms of like it's too much. This movie's 2 hours long.
Yes, it is.
It should be an hour and a half. Like when I sat down, I was like, is this really 2 hours? And I looked at it. Yep, it's 2 hours. And that's all exposition. That's all the talking. My curiosity and not justifying it, but my curiosity is because if they know that the average audience member is like 13 going to this thing, do they feel like they have to explain technology down to that like minutia? Because that's kind of what it feels like, because there's so much conversation and explaining about AI and the advancements of AI and learning technology and like it turns into like a history lesson at certain points. We're like, well, in 1984, the creation of this particular piece of technology, and then it's like there's literally like lessons being taught here, and so I'm wondering if like they're like our old bastards like Patrick and Damon are going to understand this, but the kids, we need to make sure the kids get it. So we got to add in 35 minutes of exposition to make sure they understand it. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just wondering if that was the justification.
There is minimum 30 minutes of exposition in this movie. Minimum. There's so much exhaustive talking, but it's a really good point because I think about that movie Imaginary, that we got blindsided by the fact that, oh my God, that was actually an entry-level horror movie. We had no idea that we were getting into one. Now, in that movie, they do literally explain everything because the goal is to capture 8 to 12-year-olds. Like that was really their space. They were like, we want to make an entry level horror movie. So in those situations, you explain dead straight on to kids. In this situation, I'm like, I think you're going to lose a lot of people with all the fucking talking in this movie. Like, a 12-year-old doesn't want to sit there for 2 hours and listen to people talk. It's quite the opposite. It's very much the opposite. So it was a weird approach, but an approach that I think might be relevant, where they were like, well, we do have to explain what's going on, because it wasn't even the technology explanations that were bothering me. It was the plot details that were bothering me. It's like, well, I'm like, let me get you into this room to explain what we're going to do now. And I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go again.
It was like a full-on Scooby-Doo cartoon where they're just like, now let me tell you my nefarious plan to the detail, to the absolute nth degree of what I'm going to do, and you meddling kids are not going to get away with this. Like that's what it felt like at moments.
Yeah, like a James Bond sketch, where the evil villain explains his plot over and over again. And boy, I swear, Damon, they do it for everything they did. And it makes me think of Imaginary, another Blumhouse movie, where it was like, you just did it. I don't need you to explain it to me. Like, I know what's going on. Why are you stopping the movie to talk it to death? And that, to me, I mean, is it a bias? Maybe. I don't. Maybe I'm not in love with dialogue like other people are. I don't. Maybe I'm not. But to me, I was just like, this is getting exhausting. We're gonna stop again and keep talking about like what's happening in this movie. I don't need it. And it's interesting. The Naked Gun movies are about 90 minutes, and they are swift. Those movies like move. Like they're also too. I mean, it's very different. They're very surface level, so they're not getting into deeper themes. So I will give M3GAN 2.0 grace, because it's like it's getting into real themes and it's trying to explore them better. And it doesn't just rely on its screwball comedy. It's trying to actually put a plot forward, put some action in front of you, put some drama in front of you. I think it's putting too many things in front of you. That's just personally. I think it needed to pick its lane. And if I was going to go for anything, I would have picked the action lane, because it would have kind of the T2 example that you were giving pre-spoilers, which is like, we have this deadly AI that we have to fight, and we're going to use what used to be our enemy to fight it. Like, lean into that more than anything. And it's like, boy, like, there were multiple weeds to get lost in, Damon, and I got fatigued.
Well, I think my biggest problem with this movie isn't that it wasn't a horror film, because it was still fun at moments, and I still enjoyed a lot of elements in this movie. I think the problem that they had, and I'm sorry to kind of critique Gerard Johnstone for this, but I think it comes down to just too many threads you're trying to
Yes.
stick into this plot, because you've got one thread which is introduced, which is the evil AI robot being Amelia, being co-opted and corrupted by the government, and now it's gone rogue. Okay, we all understand that. That's very simple to understand. It's a bad robot. It wants to take over. That's as far as you really needed to go with that. I didn't need everything else. And you're like, okay, we got to build M3GAN to stop it. Okay, cool. Now that's the trailer, and kudos for them. Like, I know you said it gives everything away, but that literally is the plot. And if that was the plot, I would have been like, cool. And you could have still made a good movie out of that. Like, the elements of that were fun. But then he decided to do a little twist and turn, which the twist is, since M3GAN, the original M3GAN, Gemma has turned into an advocate for more regulations around AI. She's trying to instruct and educate people about why AI can be useful, but why we need to have regulations to control it so it doesn't spiral out of control. And she works with this guy named Christian, which they have to bang you over the head like 8,000 times in this movie. His name is Christian. That he's like a former tech bro who has come around to her way of thinking of like, AI cannot get spiraled out of control. We got to control it. And so the entire movie is like this weird, like, is she flirting with her friend? Are they together? What are they not together? And then you come to find out, oh, the big twist is that Amelia was never this autonomous, she became self-aware like Skynet. She never did. It was Christian who was controlling her this entire time, and he was basically using her in almost like a Watchmen scheme, where he wanted the world to see what an evil AI robot would become. He didn't drop a squid into the middle of New York and blow up and kill 5 billion people like they did in Watchmen, but it was the same idea, which is he wanted to use Amelia to scare the world into thinking, oh shit, we better lock this down and not allow AI to take over
Right.
our lives. This is what can happen. So you turn out the whole big twist is Christian was behind this all. Amelia was never self realizing, she was never awake. It was him controlling her this entire time. But then they also jam in this other weird subplot about there was this original AI built in the 80s and they
Yeah.
realized it was dangerous and so they locked it away and they made this weird subplot about for the last like 30 years this AI has been continuously learning, like they couldn't shut it down, so it's just but they've locked it away so it can't get out. And so there's this weird subplot of like if this AI gets out, it's been learning and now it's pissed off because it's been captured for 30
Yeah.
years, so it's gonna like revolt against us. That we didn't need any of that. That none of
Oh,
that
I really didn't need that.
none of it had any relevance whatsoever to this movie, but why they had to, and it took a lot of time to in the movie, like where they took a lot of time to get in there. It played zero relevance. And the other thing, by the way, and maybe I missed this, Patrick. I just got to throw this out there before I hand it back to you. They made a big deal at the beginning of the movie that Gemma was living in this super nice apartment, and they
Hmm.
kept hinting that like she had done something to earn this money, but they never say what it is. Like they never reveal what she actually did. Like they joke, they're like, did you sell to M3GAN technology? She never, like they never fully explain how she's continuously had, like she's started her own company which is not thriving at all. She's working for a nonprofit, but yet she lives in this like really really super nice apartment with full AI controls and everything in the apartment, but yet she's seemingly broke. And like they keep referencing it, like how do you have all this cool shit, Gemma? And they never actually tell you how she actually has all the cool shit.
The irony of that, Damon, is that I did pick up on what it was. And what it was that M3GAN was the landlord. M3GAN put her in that place, gave her like the cheapest rent possible in like in the certain district of the I think it was like the Castro district or something of San Francisco, which is San Francisco is like woefully expensive. So they were like, how do you afford this cool apartment in San Francisco? Makes no sense. That what they very quickly like breeze by, and I'm like, why did you breeze by this when you talked everything else to death? Like that Xerox AI that went rogue that doesn't really matter to the story. When you could have explained like this was M3GAN's plan all along, was to siphon her back so she could rebuild M3GAN. That's what it is. I mean, if when I'm telling you pages and pages of dialogue, it was a line that they explained it with, and then they moved on. They like zipped past it, and I was like, I would have been more interested in that than this MacGuffin of like, well, we're going after this AI, which I guess Christian believes he can control. You know, like again, it was an extra thing. Then you have the FBI who is also chasing Gemma. And it makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, did I really need it? Like, was it really helping this movie? It was just one of these comic reliefs, like the mustachioed, it basically looked like Andy Samberg playing an FBI agent and playing it for jokes. I mean, that's what it was. It was playing for jokes. And I'm like, all this stuff is taxing this movie. All this stuff is dragging this movie down.
Yeah,
The plot was enough.
if you just make it about an AI robot gone wrong and we need M3GAN to stop it, that's all I needed.
And I was even fine with like Christian was behind the robot. Like I was even fine with that. But boy, when I tell you like there's so much stuff stuffed into it that it takes away from what was I think a pretty good streamlined idea. They just threw so much shit at the wall. And I was like, dude, this wall's covered in shit. Like now, like now it's getting stinky in here. Like you had something and you just overdid it. Like overdid it. And I mean, and that's not counting all the times they took to just take a break and make a joke, which there's a lot of those too. They do, spoiler alert, they do redo this singing scene. This time she sings to Gemma. And I was like, guys, we did this. Come up with
Well,
something different.
and to that point, one of the other biggest problems I had with this movie was what the other underlying theme of this film was Gemma still not knowing how to be a mother to Katie. Now, I'm not saying she shouldn't have continuous learning of, because you never stop learning how to be a parent. I'm sure you are stuck in new adventures every fucking day, Patrick, as a dad.
Every day, every day, every
But
day, Damon.
that was the entire plot of the original film, was like she didn't know she got thrust into parenthood because her sister died and she was the guardian for Katie, and so she built Megan almost as like an at-home babysitter because she had no idea how to raise a child. She never meant to have a child. So that was literally the plot of the original Megan. There's this underlying theme throughout Megan 2.0, which is Gemma basically saying, I still don't know how to be a mother. Now, I'm not saying you figure it all out. You never figure it all out, Patrick. I'm sure you can attest to that. But it's the same plot. Like, if you want to reverse it, make it where Katie is like a moody teenager now, and she's rebelling against Gemma, who's become this like loving, caring parent. It's literally the same plot. She's like, I don't know how to be a mother to Katie. And I'm like, didn't we just do this? And I know it doesn't, it's not the biggest part of the plot, but it is an underlying plot the entire time, because what we learn throughout the movie is that Megan is continuing to learn an exponential rate, and Katie is convinced that Megan can have feelings. That's what she's trying to like teach. She's trying to advance Megan to the point where she actually feels she can actually, like, her coding in the original one was literally just protect Katie at all costs. And the AI just took that as, oh, well, I'll just murder people because they're threatening Katie. So that's where it went too far. So Megan, or excuse me, Katie was convinced that she could actually make Megan like sympathetic, like actually give her feelings. She would know the difference between right and wrong when it came to protecting Katie. That's fine. I can understand the advancement of that. But then you throw in that Gemma thing where it's like she still doesn't know how to be a parent, and it's thick. Like, there's a lot of elements where it's like they keep coming back to that. And Megan is like teaching Gemma how to be a parent. And I'm just like, didn't we already do this plot?
And again, that's, I think, on the side of like comedy. It was for the sake of the comedy of it all that they leaned into that again. And I'm like, you didn't need to. It's the same with the singing moment. Like, you didn't need to do this again. We did this. Subvert us now. Like, okay, we had that singing and the dancing in the last one. What do we do this time that's different and more interesting and really like flips everybody on their heads? Show me that instead of just playing the hits. And I think we get into that a lot. Like, I mean, there was this kind of a negative reaction to 28 Years Later because they didn't play the hits. And my argument is like, I'm in the camp of don't play the hits with movies. Show me something new. Top Gun Maverick, okay? Like, some people go, what are you talking about, Top Gun Maverick? The original Top Gun, basically a commercial for the Air Force. That's really what it was. Don't come at me with that again. I don't need that again. There's a plot in Top Gun Maverick. It's actually got a story. It's actually about how, like, the attempt to like industrialize American people into loving the military kind of failed. There's an actual like, there's a thing to say there. They said, we're not going to do Top Gun 2.0. We're going to do Top Gun Maverick. It's going to be a whole different story that does touch on the old stuff, but shows you something new. And I felt like Megan 2.0 was like, what if we just showed you all the old stuff, but bigger and brighter? And what if we just replace the horror with action and more comedy and bigger mustaches? And you're like, nah, I'm good. I'll take something else.
You can still play the hits. You know, it's just like watching a Lethal Weapon movie. You know what I mean? You got to have Murtaugh and Riggs. Murtaugh's got to be a little crazy, and Riggs has got to be like the skeptical kind of curmudgeon-y old guy. That's the dynamic of Lethal Weapon or Die Hard. You know, you got to have John McClane be the quippy, action-packed kind of everyman cop. If you take that away from him, it's not Die Hard. So you can play the hits. I'm okay with them playing the hits, but play the hits and then give me new stuff. Like, you know, yes. Like going back to Terminator. They had Arnold back as a Terminator, but this time he was the good guy. Okay, he did that with Megan. Now she's the good, kind of the good girl, kind of the anti-hero, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And you definitely played the hits. Like, there's a moment where it says, I'll be back. And like, all they have all those moments in Terminator 2. But then you add in new things like John teaching the Terminator new words when he says "Hasta la vista, baby," and all that shit. And you see the Terminator accepting the knowledge of humans as opposed to just being a robot. And by the end of the movie, the robot literally turns to John Connor and says, "Now I know why you cry," as he gets ready to feed himself down into the liquid metal. Sorry, I'm spoiling a 40-year-old movie or 30-year-old movie.
How
Uh,
dare you spoil that movie, Damon?
um, it's okay to play the hits. It is, but you got to give me something different. Now, all this complaining makes it sound like I hated this movie. I really didn't. I think I liked a lot about this movie, but it's what you're talking about. Like it's just too much of playing the hits, too much exposition, and then these weird plot threads that didn't need to be. Like I said, the way like the extra
Yeah.
guy thing didn't need to be there. I don't even mind the Christian twist that he was controlling Amelia and really he was trying to warn the world about AI. I actually kind of like that twist. But then the whole like just so much time making Megan be the fun, jovial, quippy AI murder robot, and then the underlying plot of Gemma still not knowing how to be a mom, which we already fucking did that. They could have slimmed this down to 90 minutes, taken out a lot of bullshit and a whole lot of exposition, and this would have been kind of a lean, fun AI modern day jokey Terminator-ish movie. And I'll say this right now. I think maybe I said it earlier. I don't know if I did or not. This is better than like the last like four Terminator movies. The last like four Terminator movies have sucked. And I'm a big Terminator fan. Like the last four Terminator movies have been terrible. I'm sorry. Terminator Genesis, the remake was awful. Terminator Dark Fate was terrible. None of the Terminator lately have been good. This was better than that. So like lean into that, like lean into what the strengths of this movie were, and they just tried too hard to do other shit, and then like you said, when you go see Iron Maiden, you'd be a little bummed if they didn't play Run to the Hills.
Sure.
You'd be a little bummed if they didn't play, their hits. You know what I mean? You'd be a little bummed if they didn't play some of their hits, right? Like that's
Yeah. Play the Trooper. Come on.
you gotta play that. That's just part of it. But you also like to have like a different experience. Like if you saw them 2 years ago, you don't want to see the exact same concert 2 years later. You want to have some different things in there, whatever it is. I've seen Metallica 15 times. Every time I've seen Metallica, do they always play For Whom the Bell Tolls? Do they always play, Fade to Black? Do they always play One? Of course they do. Do they always play Enter Sandman? Yes. But do they interlace it with new songs, a song maybe they didn't play on the last tour, songs that fans were like, ooh, we really want to hear this one from Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets or whatever songs they don't know? Yes. I don't think I've ever seen Metallica play the same exact set list. They always play the hits, but they always interjected with other shit in there. I think that's where M3GAN 2.0 went wrong. They're like, we just got to give you nothing but the hits. We got to give you nothing but the hits, and then we're going to replay the mother angle, and then we're going to just inject this weird other shit that doesn't need to be there. And by the way, Patrick, I don't know if you know this or not, but they're going to talk you to death.
Damon, I'm gonna keep this simple. It's like if I went to whatever Metallica concert, whatever year they came out with that Fuel song, which I don't like at all, and if the next time I saw them they did the exact same set over again, that's kind of how I'm feeling. It's like, hey, all right, I experienced it once, gotcha. I don't need it again. And then yeah, I don't know, Damon. I liked this movie less than you did, for sure. I don't hate this movie. I don't think this movie sucks, but I like it a lot less than the first movie. And I mean by a very wide margin. I like this way less. I don't want to revisit this movie. I've seen enough. I'm good.
It's weird you say that because I definitely like this one way less than the first one. And the only reason this sounds weird why I'm giving it a more positive review is because I almost feel like this is just a totally different movie. Like I don't even feel like it's a sequel. Like it is, but it's not. Like it's just a totally different movie. So I'm almost judging it on its own. Like, yeah, I guess it's M3GAN 2.0, but it's really not. Like the only bones that are the same is M3GAN and Gemma and Katie. That's really it. Like, there's nothing else similar about the two movies. So I'm almost judging M3GAN 2.0 as like a separate entity. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it, but it's like your Metallica analogy. Like they did the Unforgiven. I actually really like the Black Album. I know a lot of people don't like the Black Album.
I like Black Album. Yeah.
And I like the song The Unforgiven. But then they're like, hey, everyone liked that song. Let's do The Unforgiven 2. Like 2 albums later. No, no, we don't
No,
need that.
no,
we
we've
don't.
got a little Unforgiven 2 situation going on here.
Yeah, we don't need that. Like I know we all liked one. We didn't need one, two. Like we didn't need that.
That's
Just
that's
move on.
probably the best analogy that we've come up with tonight. Is this
Yeah,
is Unforgiven 2?
this is Unforgiven too. Like I like the original. We didn't necessarily need another one. Patrick, let's get in some categories, and it's going to be a short category night because this isn't a horror movie, so there's no gore. There are a couple kills, like there are a couple like random FBI agents that get stabbed, but like even the lead FBI agent who gets stabbed through the stomach with a pole, he doesn't die.
Yeah, he doesn't die. Jermaine Clement's character, Appleton, he got the worst of it. He had like a mechanized spine that was allowing him to walk, and Amelia, the AI robot gone rogue, rips the spine out of him to add to her tech and all that stuff. But that, I mean, even that's pretty much off camera. They kind of
Even
barely glimpse at it. You know, they don't really show you much.
Christian gets like turns and locks the door behind, like trying to get away from Gemma and Megan, and then he turns around and Amelia's there, and Amelia kills him. You don't see him kill him. You see a splatter of blood on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, this is even less hard because our big complaint with the first Megan was like it didn't go hard enough. This one goes even less hard. This is softer, and I doubt there's a director's cut that goes harder here. I doubt it exists.
No, there's probably a goofier cut. They're like, hey, let's put more Naked Gun jokes in there. Uh so let's kick things off as we do each and every week here, Patrick, and talk about best performance. So when it comes to Megan 2.0, who gets your best performance?
It's a repeat, Damon. Talk about playing the hits. My best performance once again goes to Amy Donald and Jenna Davis, who played Megan. Obviously, Megan is the star of the show. I think she has more personality than everybody, and I think that's by design. And if I didn't get Megan in this movie, I'd have nothing good to say about this movie. I really wouldn't. Well, that's not true because the next thing is the other thing I think is really good about this movie. But you needed Megan. You needed her sassy and smart and interesting, and she was sometimes, and then sometimes she wasn't. But at least she was there. I know it's barely a compliment, Damon, but it goes to those women for coming back again and reprising their role as Megan.
It's funny you say that because my best performance actually goes to Ivana Sankno as Amelia. I was familiar with her. She was in the God, why am I forgetting the name of the series? The Star Wars series with
Ashoka, yeah,
yeah, Ahsoka. Thank you. She
yeah.
played one. She played one of the Sith or one of the evil people in Ahsoka. And I really liked her in there. I'd not seen her before, and I was like, oh. And then when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh yeah, that's the girl from Ahsoka. She does it, it's very much like in a God. I'm sorry, I keep making the comparisons, but it's like first discovering Robert Patrick in Terminator 2. Like I don't remember ever seeing Robert Patrick before
Right.
the movie. And I was like, oh, this, and he's kind of like in that movie, he's like a smaller, just like a normal looking dude. And you're like, how is this guy going to go toe to toe with Arnold Schwarzenegger? And then you realize it's because he's liquid metal and blah, blah, blah. Um, I would say that Ivana Sakno's performance is much more, she looks much more realistic, like a badass in this movie. She's got a physical capability more than even like the little Megan does. But I liked her portrayal. She does a really good job of not just making it overly robotic, which I know sounds weird because she's playing a robot. But she does a good job of like switching between menacing and demure at moments when she's trying to like play a seductress. She does a really good job kind of switching roles of what you would imagine an AI robot would do. So I really liked her performance, and I thought she did a good job, and I was just glad to see her in another, kind of a big movie like this.
I think she is criminally underused in this
She
movie.
is. She is.
I think this movie should have gone full T2, to be honest with you. It really should have gone full T2 and really make her the full antagonist of this movie, but Damon, no. They did what they did in Megan 1.0 because they're playing the hits. By the end of the movie, she is basically part of the team now. Like now we are like collecting a bunch of AI killer robots who are now going to be the good guys. And I guarantee you in Megan 3.0 that Amelia will have a bigger role, and that role will actually be on the good side of things because that's the way they set it up.
Yeah, and I didn't like not to get not to go back to the whole thing, but like that's the problem because in the original when Megan died and they killed Megan, like you still understood Megan was evil, but then everyone loved Megan, so like, well, we got to make Megan a good person. And by the way,
Right.
for this one to get, I don't care what kind of movie you're making, you got to have some action, you got to have some outcomes here that are going to subvert expectations. Amelia or and they actually even in this movie Megan dies and then she doesn't like they actually kill Megan and at the end she's like, did you think I wouldn't be a backup? Oh, she's alive. And I'm just huh, like this is I saw a thing today on the internet, Patrick. I'm going way off topic here, but this is where fan service goes fucking wrong. Did you watch The Walking Dead?
I abandoned it after many years. Right when Daryl walked up to the compound with the white armor on, that
Okay.
was literally the last image I ever saw of the show.
Did you watch the Negan parts? Like the beginning of Negan?
Yeah, yeah. I was there for the Negan's introduction and for like a season or two.
Spoiler for Negan, which is I think this is from like 2017. This is going back or 2018. This is
Yeah,
years.
it's a long time ago.
This is a Walking Dead spoiler. Be warned. Negan kills Glenn. That happened in the comic books, and it also happened in the show. And Glenn
Right.
was a very beloved character. And like a lot of people were just like, fuck this show, you killed Glenn, because we love Glenn. Now, to me, I was like, A, I read the comic, I knew that's what happened, but also B, I was like, you can't just let people stay because you like them. That's kind of the point of The Walking Dead. You got to kill people. I saw a thing today online. It said Walking Dead producer, and the quote was, every day I think of how can I bring Glenn back. He got
What?
his head bashed in with a fucking baseball bat. This is not supernatural beyond the zombies. How the fuck are you bringing Glenn back? My head nearly popped off my shoulders. And by the way, I don't watch anything Walking Dead anymore. I don't really care about The Walking Dead anymore. I used to really like it. Now I don't really care. But when I saw that quote, it enraged me. I'm like, how? What do you mean? How can I bring him back? What are you talking about? Like, what are we doing here? And I feel like that's the symptom of M3GAN 2.0. Like, we love Megan, even though she actually had a pretty cool, like, emotional exit in this movie. She uses an EMP, an electronic, what is it, electromagnetic
Magnetic pulse.
pulse,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is a real thing. That's what happens when a nuclear bomb goes off. It kills anything electronic and wipes it out. Like, what, if you have a computer, done, wiped, gone. And they use an EMP device for Megan to wipe out her and Amelia. Kind of a cool exit, right? Like, oh wow, she stopped it, but of course she had to die in the process. They couldn't let Megan die because we got to have Megan
No.
3.0. But even her coming back, I was like, okay, at least, okay, we know Megan's coming back. But then, of course, they're going to be, as you said, they're going to bring back Amelia. They're going to find a way to fucking bring back Christian for all I know. Like, what are we doing here, people? Like, can we just not have consequences anymore? Like, do movies just have to be all happy endings?
It's not a terrible point. I think that's a very good point. Like there should be consequences in movies, but people are like, nah, fuck that. Because we're in the post comic book world, movie world, where it's like, no, I'll find a way, and if not, we'll just create another dimension where another version of that person exists. Like now there is no such thing as someone dying for good, and so yeah, M3GAN 3.0, believe me, fucking the T1000 may come back, Damon. We might just have it all.
Yeah, sorry, I just had to get off topic there and mention that because I was just like, Jesus Christ, like, come on now, like, you get something, you gotta have something here. So there's gotta be some consequences somewhere along the line.
There's got to be
Uh,
consequences.
Patrick, let's move on to MVP. So when it comes to M3GAN 2.0, who gets your MVP for this movie?
My MVP goes to the fight coordinator, and I apologize ahead of time because I do not have their name. But one of the big positives of this movie is that it is action packed. I mean, it is some of the best fighting outside of a John Wick movie. Like genuinely, like some really interesting set pieces. They really use kind of the AI robot bodies to their advantage. And they even get Gemma in on the action. They get Katie in on the action because she's an Aikido expert now, so she's got a little bit of like it's a romping, stomping, like beat 'em up type movie. And I was like, you know what? Of all the things in this movie, I really fucking like this.
So the name you're looking for is Tolga Dergerman. Dergerman is the name.
I'm glad I didn't try to say that name.
Yeah, Tolga Dergerman is the name of the fight choreographer, and he has also done movies such as The Witcher, Blood Origin, Jack Ryan, the show on Amazon. He has done The Witcher, the regular Witcher on Netflix. He has done Charlie's Angels. So he is actually a pretty prolific fight choreographer. So he is the fight choreographer that you were looking for. Tolga Dergerman is his name. So
Hey, TD, thank you, brother. Like, nice work.
I looked that up for you.
I'm not going to try
Now,
and say that name. I'm going to destroy it.
Now I'm going to go in a different direction. This is going to sound like one of those like backhanded compliments, but I really don't mean it. I'm being sincere when I say
Yeah,
it.
right.
No, I'm being, because usually like I always go for the low hanging fruit, the writer or director, but clearly I have a lot of problems with this movie, so it's hard for me to pick Gerard Johnstone because I have issues with that. But my actual MVP, I'm going to the casting directors of this movie, and that is Sarah Domier Lindo, Miranda Rivers, and Terry Taylor. If I had one big compliment to this movie overall, and this is still not a huge budget, $25 million is not a massive budget. This movie is casted pretty well. Like you mentioned that, and I know a lot of this is returning characters, but I thought, again, having having the new person coming to play the new AI robot, the Ivana Senko character, I thought the character who played Christian Aristotle Athari was pretty solid. Yeah, Jermaine Clement was a little over the top as like their fake weird Elon Musk person, but I don't think that was him as much as it was the written page is what he was performing on. But I thought the casting was solid for what they did. Like, the new characters mixed with the old characters, I thought all worked pretty well. Actually, I don't know if it was the same casting people, but I actually really like Cole, the Brian Jordan Alvarez, who plays
Mm-hmm.
dorky friend. And to his credit, he was the dorky guy in the first movie, too.
Sure, yeah.
I liked him. I liked that character, and Tess was around. So I thought it was a good mix of like, let's bring back these characters. And there was a lot from the first one. I know a lot of people died in the first one, but other people they just decided not to bring back. And I'm like, yeah, I think this movie was kind of good. So I know it sounds like a backhanded compliment, but I thought this movie was cast pretty well.
Bless your heart, Damon, because I thought the problem with this movie is it had too many people in it. Like it just needed less people in it.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying like the people they got were good in what they did. So
Everyone seems competently cast. Yes.
stop fucking with my backhanded compliment.
Sorry. Sorry.
Patrick, let's get on to a little bit more of a serious subject here, which is in our next weird kind of offshoot category that we didn't really plan for, which is what do we learn about AI from watching M3GAN 2.0? Because we are living in an AI society now, like it or not. My job's affected by it. Your job's affected by it.
Big time.
What do we learn? And I bring this up because I joked in the intro. I said we should have learned from the Terminator 4 years ago. I always see these videos on TikTok of like the new robot that they have with that lab in like was it Texas where they have like the robotics lab where
Yeah,
like the robots
lab.
are like the robots are now opening doors and like the one that like attacked. Did you see that one video where
Yes.
the kid went ape shit?
Yes.
And I'm just like, do you not watch the Terminator? Like we know where this is going. So Patrick, what do we learn about AI in M3GAN 2.0?
I don't know. We learned that it's not going anywhere, which is, I think, very much the truth. We learned that even people with good intentions know how to use it for nefarious reasons. Christian was his problem with it was he was like, I'm going to use it to my advantage, and if I kill some people in the process, oh well. We learned that I think the Pandora's box has been opened and it won't be closed. I work in tech. I do a lot of video in tech. All they talk about right now is AI. They want to sell it to you. They don't know why. They just know that you'll buy it if they say the words AI. They don't care if it steals all your data. They don't care if it steals from artists. Excuse me for being on my soapbox, but it's true. They don't. They don't care. They want the information, and then they want to spit out some generic version for you, and they want you to consume it. I think, Damon, that it all lacks a ton of passion. It lacks the emotional necessity that I think art creates. And I think the movie even kind of suffers from a lack of emotionality. I think it's just trying to hit you with a lot of comedy and it hits you with a lot of punching and kicking, quite literally, because it's lacking the emotional weight that I think the first movie had, ironically enough. And hey, they can maybe go, accidentally stumble into a backflip and go, ta-da, see, we landed on the theme you were talking about. Because this movie does lack that passion. It lacks that emotion. And I think AI is going to deal a big blow to creativity overall. And yeah, dark days ahead, Damon. What else is new?
Boy, I tell you what, your answer is a lot cheerier than mine because I have a two-word response for where this movie is headed or where this technology is headed. We're fucked. That's my response. And the reason I say that is because we just never learn. And that's the sad
No, we don't.
reality. We never learn. I remember, and this is a movie, it was my favorite horror film last year. Late Night with the Devil. There was a little bit of a controversy where some of the graphics they made and they used in the film were created with AI. And there was an outcry amongst creators and filmmakers saying this is not cool. Like you should have hired someone to do that. Like you took away someone's job. And then I saw a lot of pushback from fans saying, "What are you talking? It's just three little images.
Hmm.
Who cares? Who gives a shit?"
Yeah.
But guess
Then
what?
hey, it's just the background actors. Hey, it's just the lighting team. Hey, it's just grip and electric. Like, trust me.
And that's what I'm saying. Like you say, "Oh, who cares at that?" And that's where I'm saying we're fucked because this is all going to spiral out of control, just like the robots I was kind of joking about, but kind of not in that lab down in Texas. We see the videos, we're like, "Oh, you never learned from the Terminator." But you got to remember, those robots may not turn into the Terminator, but there is a good chance that depending on your job, that robot may take your job. That AI may take your job. You may be a clerical, you may be a data processor, you may work in an office, maybe you're a executive assistant. That's a pretty like that could be a pretty important job and a pretty well-paying job from what I hear when you work for a big company. Executive assistant, you're working helping make appointments and you're kind of running the day-to-day operations for a CEO or a CFO or whatever. Now you're thinking, man, I make good money. I work for a big company. I'm safe. This guy depends on me. What if AI learns enough to where like we don't need you? We can make the appointments. We can actually answer the phone, and an AI answer machine can talk to the clients. It knows what to say. It knows how to respond. It knows how to reach out to your boss. You're just not needed anymore. And guess what? That guy, that CEO that's paying you right now, that's making $15 million a year, he looks at you and says, you know what? If I fire her or him, I could make $16 million a year. Now, which do you think is going to be more important to him? You going home and having a paycheck to pay and feed your family, or him making that extra $1 million? Because I don't know anybody who doesn't want to make more money. So I'm just saying, be aware, because it can affect everybody. You may think AI cannot affect my job. I promise you it can. And so when I say we're fucked, it's because we just never learn our lesson. So I'm not saying doom and gloom is all we have, but I'm just saying be aware when you say little things like, it's just three images in Late Night with the Devil. Three images become six images. Six images become nine images. And then suddenly, like, we don't need a graphics department anymore. And then suddenly, like, we don't need a music department anymore. That's where it goes. And I'm not
Yeah.
wrong. Gratch, you know I'm right.
Fuck no. You think the producers in these studios want to pay anybody? They don't. They have no desire to pay you your money. And
There was massive strikes by actors and writers like 2 years ago because they didn't want to pay them.
and you got me all fired up here, Damon, so I'm just going to say it right here because there's going to be a few people listening going, "Oh, but you know what? Like AI is like unlocking the gate because there's a lot of gatekeeping behind artistry and now I get to do it too." No, there's no gatekeeping in artistry. Artistry is hard work, it's failure, it's trial and error. There's no gatekeeping in it. If you want to outwork me, you can outwork me and become the guy. If you want to have the Rewind of the Living Dead podcast, but you didn't want to do it for 5 years, you just want to type into AI, make 287 episodes of horror movies. And here's a link to Rewind of the Living Dead and go. I didn't gatekeep shit. I didn't gatekeep nothing. You could have gone out and done it. It was free. It was free for me and Damon. And that's not free anymore. We have to pay for it now. That's why we're starting a Patreon. But the point being is that No one gate kept it from us. We just worked at it until we got tens of thousands of listeners a month. Nobody got in our way. And artistry, nobody's getting in your way. You go, it's always been hard to write a script and try to get it sold. That's always been the way. It's never been gate kept. You're not unlocking some new thing with AI. You got to put pencil to paper and you got to make it happen yourself. At the end of the day, I ain't gatekeeping shit. So I don't want to hear nobody coming in our comments talking about, well, it's just you guys are being gatekeepers. No, we're not. We work fucking hard at this shit. Damon Martin writes 10 plus articles a day by hand with research, with work. I made a short film with a bunch of people. We just did the work with no money. We ain't gatekeeping shit. Don't come at me in the comments with gatekeeping shit. I will go off.
Yeah, I just a real quick story I want to tell, and this is kind of related to what we're talking about. I get messages a lot. I'm a journalist full time. That's my actual gig, working in mixed martial arts. I've told that on the show before. And I get messages from young journalists hitting me up out of college, like, hey, I want to get into MMA journalism. What advice would you give me? And I generally give them a lot of the same advice. Understand up front, you're probably not going to make any money. If you're a true passion and fan about the sport, start at the local level, go to regional shows, try to talk to younger fighters who are just begging for media, work for lower level blog sites who are just looking for people who are willing to write for them, because you're probably not going to make any money, and continue to build your way up. Because that's exactly what I did. Now I've been doing what I've been doing for 20 years. But the unrealistic expectations I get hit with a lot when I get those messages are, when do I get paid? That's a big one. And I understand everyone wants to get paid for the work. I get that. And two, they're like, okay, I understand you're saying I need to talk to like the low level, like kind of nobody fighters, but when do I get to talk to Conor McGregor? When do I get to talk to Ronda Rousey? When do I get to talk to Israel Adesanya? When do I get to talk to Max Holloway? And I'm just like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I built those relationships. Can I text or call Max Holloway? Like when I lost my job at Fox Sports, when they fired everybody at my department, I got messages from Conor McGregor, Max Holloway, fighters who knew me. They're like, this is bullshit. You didn't deserve this. You're too good for them, blah, blah, blah. That meant a lot to me. Why did I get those messages? Because I built those relationships over 20 years. But there's this unrealistic, they're like, hold on, day one, I don't get to just call Conor McGregor. I'm like, no, you don't just get to call Conor McGregor. That's like in your job, you're like, you know what, I'm just going to call up Steven Spielberg. You don't just get to call Steven Spielberg.
I've done that. It didn't work.
So work hard and work hard and be willing to know that it's going to take work and talent to get there. And that's just any gig, any job out there. But when we talk about AI, it's just like that, like, it's like the shortcut. Everyone wants the shortcut and realize the shortcut's going to cost you your job one day. So,
yeah, yeah, we're fucked, Damon. Because then all those same people are still going to go, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. So when I
okay,
say
great,
my two-word answer, we're fucked, is definitely the right answer. Patrick, next category, we already kind of answered this, so I don't think we need to spend a lot of time here, which is, where does M3GAN go from here? We are going to get, unless this movie absolutely bombs, which I don't think it's going to, we are going to get M3GAN 3.0. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Damon, I think it's very simple, and they showed it to us right here in M3GAN 2.0, is that M3GAN is going to just become a movie franchise. It's going to become a Fast and the Furious. It's going to become a Mission Impossible or whatever. They are, I don't want to say they're abandoning horror, but they are certainly not going to lean into horror from this point on. They're not going to go, well, we're going back to our roots. It's going to be a horror movie next time. Unlikely. I think they're just going to be able to ratchet up, have a bigger budget, and play in a bigger pool. And you're going to get to see, probably M3GAN versus Jigsaw or some shit. Like, that's coming. Like, this is what happens when you create an internet icon, and there's no way around this.
So we already know that movie Soulmate's coming, which weirdly I'm kind of curious about that one, because, there is like a nefarious, dirty element to that. And it's not because I'm a hornball. It's more of just like
that's a lie you are.
I know, but I'm saying, like, in terms of like, but I did, like, they talk about like it's like 80s, erotic thrillers like Brian De Palma.
Yeah,
I'm a huge Brian De Palma.
It's weird to say, Damon, but we grew up on erotic thrillers.
100% we did, and so like I'm literally like Body Double is one of my favorite movies. Like, I'm just kind of curious what they're gonna do, because if there's one section where robotics and AI has definitely had an impact, it is the sex industry. It's real. So I am kind of curious about that and seeing what they do with it. Can they do something interesting and new with it? So in that regard, I'm curious. As far as M3GAN goes, it's going to be M3GAN on like every steroid, testosterone, and EPO you can get out there. This thing's going to be jacked up to 11. There's going to be 20,000 M3GANs. There's going to be 2,000 Amelias, and yeah, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and crazier and wilder, and it's going to go full Naked Gun 33 and a third. Where this one, kind of like Naked Gun 2, I was like, it's still pretty good. There's still some funny parts and whatever. And then by the third one, I was like, I can't watch this. I feel like that's where M3GAN, like, there's elements of M3GAN 2.0 I enjoyed. I feel like we're just going to go completely off the fucking rails by the third one. Like, this is going to be just a full-on coke bender of a movie.
M3GAN in space. I'm saying it now.
Yeah, M3GAN on coke. computer crack. Last category, Patrick. I think we already know the answer to this. Is it scary? This isn't a horror movie, so it can't be scary.
Sorry, folks. We literally just did a 2-hour episode on a not horror movie, which is a little taste of things to come, because on the Patreon, we're also going to do non-horror movies. It just so happens that we didn't realize M3GAN 2.0 was one of them.
But I want to tell people, for like all the complaining and weird things we had to say about this movie, if you loved the goofy dancing and the singing and the kind of like over-the-top comedic elements of M3GAN, if that was your favorite part of M3GAN, you're probably going to love M3GAN 2.0. And I'm not saying you're wrong for that, by the way. Certainly not. We always say you may not agree with us. I've had a lot of people who said, I hated 28 years later, and I loved it. I've already had like 10 comments on my TikTok video saying, I fucking hate that movie. What are you talking about? That's fine. You may love M3GAN 2.0. Didn't really work for us, or there was elements of it I liked. So,
I didn't hate it, but boy, I didn't like it.
I didn't hate it, but I'm certainly not rushing to rewatch it. I guess, is that the best backhanded compliment I can give?
Oh, yeah. They're getting a lot of them tonight, aren't they?
Yes, they are. All right, Patrick, that's our episode for this week. Want to say a big thank you, as always, to everyone that tunes into the show. Make sure you check us out on all your favorite podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and of course over on our YouTube channel. Just search Rewind of the Living Dead and find us over there. You can also find us on our website, rewind-of-the-living-dead.com, where you'll also find trailers, movies that we don't get to review on the show. I'll put up written reviews. And soon enough, you'll be able to subscribe to our Patreon and get other cool shit related to Rewind of the Living Dead. July 11th, do not forget to be there for that night. You got questions, comments, movies you'd like us to review, hit us up on email anytime. That is rotlivingdead@gmail.com. That is rotlivingdead@gmail.com. Or you can find us on our own personal, or you can also obviously find us on social media. Rewind of the Living Dead on Twitter /X, Instagram, or Facebook. And by the way, here's a little spoiler. If you get a response, it's us. It's not AI. I promise you. We have no
AI responses.
No AI responses, so you'll love it. And you can also hit us up on our own personal social media channels. I am at Damon Martin, and you are?
At Director Patrick.
And a big thank you, as always, for everyone that tunes in the show. We'll be back next week with another edition of Rewind of the Living Dead. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you then.
Peace.